Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Wonder Series, sponsored by livinghealthylist.com. I'm Denise Stiegel. I am your host here of the Wonder Series, where our goal is to help you to wonder what life could be like if you looked at it from a different perspective, if you basically looked outside the box, outside of you, opened yourself up to new possibilities and opportunities, and really worked on changing your mindset and how those things ultimately could help you live that healthy, happy, joy-filled, vibrant life that you are searching for. Not that life is bad. Most of us, things are pretty good. They're okay, but we want more than we want more than okay. We want awesome. So that's what we're here to help you to wonder how you can get to that point. My guest today is the lovely Terina Maldonado, who is a survivor in every sense of the word. Empowered with resilience, empathy, and determination by living through childhood abuse, sexual assault, and leaving a high demanding religion. Wow. As a coach and a speaker, Terina now helps others to speak their truth and live an authentic life full of purpose. She was dubbed by Faithwire News the mom who took on Hollywood and won, and we will touch on that. Her superpower is her unapologetic vulnerability. Terina has been featured in dozens of national and international media outlets for her harrowing story and powerful, powerful message. Some of those outlets, the New York Times, hey, that's pretty big, everybody. CNN, oh, that's a pretty one too. ABC, heard of that one? How about The Guardian? Vanity Fair, yeah. Fox and the Washington Post. So this lady's got something to tell us. So Terina, welcome to the Wonder Series.
Thank you, Denise. It's so great to be here with you today.
Well, I appreciate your time and I love your story. And I love what you are doing and how you help people. So I've read your bio. You're pretty amazing. You've done some great things. Who is Terina today and how does she help her clients live this authentic life?
So who I am today is somebody who's walking the walk. I feel it's really important for me to do all the things that I'm trying to help my clients do. So I am a person who is continually learning and growing. I'm in therapy and I have coaches and I'm growing and learning as I'm walking this path of life. And I'm a mom, along with being an entrepreneur. I'm a wife, I'm a dog mom, I'm a nature lover, I'm a friend. So that's a little about of who I am.
I love it. You sound like you're a very busy, very joy-filled woman.
Yes, I try and fill my life with joy. It's very important.
So Terina, tell us a little bit about your background, and obviously your background and experience is really what's brought you to this place where you are today. We can talk a little bit about, your childhood if you want or not, or I really love the idea of the mom who took on Hollywood and won.
Yeah, we could talk about that a little. That's a really great story to share. Through my job at the time, my family and I were invited to a pre-release screening of a children's movie. And as I was watching the movie, there was this scene that was very unsettling for me. And I talked to my husband about it afterwards, and we were like, yeah, that was really not okay and send some very, very bad messages. In the scene, the main character, to save the day and become the hero, had to allow his genitals to be examined. And when he voiced discomfort with this, was told that he could go to his Zen place and that would be okay to let it happen. So a really disturbing message to send to children. And I waited till the day that reviews were released, and I was scanning all the reviews looking for any mention of this scene, thinking for sure it would be there. And there was nothing. And so I realized one of two things was happening. Either nobody else saw it or nobody else cared to call it out. And despite feeling very underqualified to share this, because I had a very, very small platform, I was like, well, I just am going to do what I can do. And so I sat and wrote the review, and I shared in the article that the lens through which I saw this was that of a survivor of child abuse. And regardless of whether you take your kids to see this movie or not, it could be a great reminder right now for you to have an important conversation with your children about good touch, bad touch, private parts, all of those things in a very natural, casual way. Because if you take them to see the movie, it's just happened in this movie, and you can bring it up in a natural way. And if you don't go see the movie, then, just here's a reminder, have a conversation with your kids, because it's important to have them and have them more than once. And so the article, I figured it would just alert my friends, my family, let them know. And to my shock, it went viral in like very literal sense of the word. Like within a few days, my website had like 5 million views. I had, you saw, like lots of news outlets reaching out to me. There was other countries that were reaching out to me, and the outcry from my article about the content was just so strong. Parents were just outraged that this would be in a children's movie. And as a result, some cities, some theater companies started pulling the movie themselves. And then the production company had to listen. And the production company pulled the movie from the theaters to edit it for content, which I think has only ever been done like once before. And it wasn't with a children's movie. And so it was really powerful reminder that your voice, when used in an authentic way, can have a really amazing impact. And one of the most impactful parts of that experience for me was having parents of survivor children reach out and say, thank you so much for the heads up. This would have been extraordinarily triggering for my child if they had gone to see that.
Wow. And truly out of concern, out of authenticity. And as you said, viewing it from through the lens of a survivor, of course, people listened. And I champion people for listening to you and paying attention. And I champion you for, saying, no, this isn't all right. And, and going about it in a good way, in an authentic way, in a I'm here to help way.
Yes, I feel like as I've reflected on this, one of the reasons why it was received so well is because I didn't come from a place of anger and outrage. I definitely expressed I was not comfortable with this. This is not appropriate, but I never once said, how dare Hollywood? How dare this director? How dare these actors? It was simply like, this is here. I didn't say, don't go see this movie. Everybody boycott this movie. Everybody boycott this production company. I just said, it's here. And if you choose to see it, here's how you can use it as a tool. And if you don't go see it, like, here's a reminder. And I think when we allow people the space to make decisions for themselves and come from a space of love and not anger, although I am reading a book right now about rage, and there is certainly a place for anger, but I think that it can be well received.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I have a friend of mine had written a book, and it's called Peace, the flip side of anger. And it's so true. And again, this is a woman who comes at it very authentically from, again, through the view of someone who had struggled and is now in a place authentically to say, okay, this is how I got to where I am. So Trina, how did you get to this place of living authentically, living peacefully, living your authentic life, who you are today?
I think, like so many things, the first step was this realization that although I had it all on the outside, like there were things that were missing. And as I really analyzed what's missing, it was those internal components of being my own authority in my life, of being able to care for myself, be able to turn inward for validation rather than outward, a lot of those things. And so there was a lot of deconstructing that happened about what did I really want? What did I really need? Who am I really? Am I doing these things because it's what my family, my religion, society has told me to do? Or am I doing these things because they bring me joy? They align with my values, they align with my interests. And as I kind of went through that deconstruction and discovery process, I started to develop habits of self-care, started to learn more about self-love, really started to embrace boundaries and boundary settings and how that can really just help protect yourself and enhance your relationship with others.
Mhm. So let's start with the self-care piece. As women, self-care always seems to be selfish. And even though we know it isn't, one, we still feel that way. So tell us, what is self-care? What are the benefits? And what is not? I like the idea of what is not self-care. So what is self-care and the benefits? What are we thinking of as self-care that really isn't?
Let's start with what it's not.
Okay.
So, self care is not a to do list, it is not another item to add to your day to make you busy. That's not it. Self care is not all about pampering. Self care is not always all about pampering, and not always all about being alone and solitude and introspection and journaling. Now, those things are beautiful, beautiful options for self care. But as I've come to really learn about self care, I've learned that self care truly is rooted in the emotion of what you are doing rather than the act.
Oh, I
So
love
it's
that.
not nearly as important what you choose to do as it is the energy and the emotions that you bring into your self care.
Mhm.
And so for me, I think it doesn't matter what you choose to do. You could choose to go for a walk. You could choose to journal. You could choose to sit on the couch and eat a bag of potato chips. If your intention is to do that in a way to show love to yourself and care for yourself, then that can be self care.
I'd like to add one thing to that, and to do it without any guilt if you're eating the potato chips on the couch.
No guilt involved. It can be silly. It could be, today I just kind of want to go dance in my backyard. What? That feels really weird. But if you need to be in the sunshine, you need to have your headphones in and just dance a little bit in your backyard. That's your self care for the day.
Mhm.
And certainly, self care can encompass getting massages, pedicures, facials. It can encompass reading and journaling. But those don't always align with everybody. Not everybody is going to hear those things and think, that is going to help me feel filled up and help me feel rejuvenated and help me feel loved. And if you're a person that hears traditional self care and you're like, that sounds super lame and I'm going to have to force myself to do that, then reimagine what self care is and determine what self care is for you. Like, what are the daily things that are going to bring you joy, that are going to make you feel loved, and that are going to help fill you up?
I so appreciate that you just said that. And it's kind of funny. Like I have right now, I have like 2 journals going. One of them is specifically a gratitude journal that a friend of mine has put together. And it's just kind of a nice daily reminder. And the other one is something that, of more of a traditional journal. And I write in it pretty regularly. But I have to say, I've never been that person like, oh, I must have my journaling time. My life changes because I journal. And I honestly feel guilty sometimes because everybody else, it seems that I have talked to, oh, journaling has changed my life. I'm like, gives me some ideas. I'll write some stuff down. Sometimes if I'm frustrated, it's good to get it out rather than, screaming at the top of my lungs. I get that. So I appreciate that you really said that about, traditional stuff. It just may not be for you.
And that's okay. And don't judge yourself as not doing self care right because you're not doing what society says self care should be.
Mhm. It's like the meditation thing. Like, people say, I always kind of, for years, I thought, oh, am I doing meditation? I sit quietly, whatever, I don't know how to do this. And people say that, well, I don't know how to do this. I had a conversation with my mom. She's so cute. She's about meditation. And she said, well, Denise, I can't sit on the floor cross-legged. I'm 80 years old. And I thought, don't think that's actually the point. But, we get these ideas in our head that this is the way it's supposed to be. So I think you make a good point. Like, pick what you like and do what works for you.
And one of the ways I like to help people implement a good self-care practice is just every morning, get grounded in your body, whether that's before you get out of bed, you're just laying there, whether that's, you've got your coffee and you're just really honing in on that sense of smell and feeling the warmth in your hands. Take some deep breaths and use that moment to ask yourself, what do I need to do today that will help me feel loved and that will help me feel filled up? And quietly listen to the answer and don't judge it when it comes.
I think it's so important for that time. It doesn't have to take a long time to feel grounded and to really kind of start your day in a very peaceful way. Because I think most people kind of start their day with blaring alarm, people running around, oh, I'm running late for work, oh, forgot my lunch, all this craziness that we kind of create ourselves. But to kind
of where you fit that into your day. I have 3 kids. My oldest, I have to wake him up at 6 o'clock in the morning and get ready for school. I am not waking up earlier than that to do my self-care. That's not happening. And so I fit that in later in my day. It doesn't have to be right at the start of your day. It could be you're getting grounded in your body while you're driving and commuting to work. That could be possible if you turn off the radio, you center your breathing, you don't close your eyes because you're on the freeway. But that could be your moment to kind of decide, what do I need for myself today?
I love that because I know when I'm actually, even step back, I know when my husband's been in my car because I get in my car and the radio's blaring and I'm like, oh my God. When I drive, especially when I'm on my own, I like it quiet because I think we have so much noise in our lives on a regular basis that quiet really, to me, that's a piece of my self-care. It's just no noise, no voice, just the ones going on in my head.
Yes, taking a moment to just be at peace with your own thoughts can be a really great thing.
So in order to preserve your self-care and really to keep moving forward in an authentic way, one of the things you and I have mentioned are boundaries, what they are, how to set them in a healthful way. Would you please elaborate there?
So I think that there's obviously a lot of talk about boundaries lately. A lot of people are learning about them and what they are. And so I think but there's also a little bit of confusion. So I think it's important to realize that boundaries are not you telling other people what they need to do. Boundaries is you communicating what you will and will not accept. It's about you keeping your own emotional, physical, spiritual space safe, valuing your own time and respecting yourself and putting yourself as the top priority in your life. So boundaries can be as simple as saying no to something that you don't really want to do. And man, that's going to feel uncomfortable if you've spent your whole life being a people pleaser. And especially as a woman, we're told that we need to serve, that we need to be meek, that we need to be humble. I mean, the woman is the helpmate, like all of these different phrases, the mom, your kids come first. We've been taught these messages for so long. And so when you step back and you say, I'm going to put myself first, for one, it's going to feel uncomfortable to do it. And for two, you might get a little pushback because people are going to say, well, this isn't the way things have always gone. What are you talking about now? We've always done things this way. So it's important to give people some grace if setting boundaries is new for you. And you can use phrases like, I understand that in the past, I accepted this, or I allowed you to speak this way to me, or whatever it may be. But I'm learning to love myself. And from now on, I really would feel more comfortable if you spoke to me like blank. or if we did this differently. Because that acknowledges that there's change happening. It gives grace to the other person as they're learning along with you who this new person is as you're growing. And so it's really important to set those boundaries with love, because how much better is that going to be received than, you've stepped into yourself and you don't want people to speak to you in a condescending way anymore. This is a boundary that you're going to set for yourself. And so it's much better received when you acknowledge where you have been and the change that's happening and extend that person a little grace than to be like, no, that's not the way you talk to me. I am beautiful. I'm strong. We speak to me with respect. Thank you very much.
You I like thinking that in your mind, but
in your mind, you psych yourself, you get talk, but when you speak it, give it to, communicate that with love and respect. I like to look at it as calling a person in versus calling them out. When you call somebody out, they get defensive.
Absolutely.
When you call somebody in and say, hey, this happened. I know you have good intentions and I know you're a good person. This is how I received it. Can you explain your motives behind that? That calls them in and gives them an opportunity to be reflective versus defensive.
Right. And it really, when it comes to relationships, whether it's your spouse, your children, your parent, siblings, it really kind of can solidify a relationship as opposed to, kind of pushing it away, because that's not what we intend. When we have these conversations, when we're trying to set boundaries, we're not trying to push people away. We're trying to just
establish boundaries to help improve our relationships, not to tear them down. And, sometimes with a relationship, you may find that a person really pushes back and refuses to accept your boundaries. And there can be different ways that you can try to accommodate that. But sometimes that's just distancing yourself a little bit. And that's okay too. But I think that should be many, many steps down the road, not something that we jump to. Just because somebody's treated you poorly and they're not learning right away doesn't mean that you have to cut this person out. You got to give them a little grace and help teach them and help them learn also as you're learning to set boundaries.
That's really a good point, because so often, we hear, who are the 5 people who light you up and those other people, get rid of them. Like, get rid of people in your life. Now, obviously, if there's a really destructive relationship, that's one thing. But I think most people most relationships are not that. And I think it's really important. Sometimes, yes, you have to distance a little bit, like you said. But I think that helps both people to understand where the other person is coming from, but really for both people to really be able to reflect, okay, so Denise needs to step back from me for a little bit. Why? Maybe there's a little anger and discomfort, but then I think it opens that person to going, okay, well, really, what's going on? Did I do something? Did I say something? Maybe then that's where their introspection comes in. So it actually helps both parties.
Yeah, definitely. And I know as a mom, self-care, especially when I had young children, my husband was in school, like that just seemed like a pipe dream. Like that seems really great that people can do that, not realizing that doing that would have helped me to navigate that season of my life so much better. And I think part of that was because I didn't understand what self-care was. Maybe in that time where the physical, emotional, and time demands were so high because I had small children, self-care could have been something like putting headphones in for 5 minutes and listening to positive affirmations or a book or a comedian to help me feel better. Like there's things I could have done to implement that in my life. And I was just so overwhelmed and misunderstanding of what self-care was that I didn't. But now, and even not quite so recently, even when our kids were at home, let's just talk about over the summer. My kids just started back to school. Hooray! But over the summer, I still put my self-care as a priority. And one of the things that I really enjoy doing is going and doing classes at the gym, because that physically helps me physically, helps my mental health. And so I set that as a priority. And it would have been really easy to just be like, well, the kids are at home. I have a lot more responsibility. They don't like going to the kids club sometimes. I really shouldn't force them, but I didn't. I set that as a priority and I did it with flexibility. Like if we had a play day or an event we wanted to go to, I would adjust my schedule or maybe skip a day. But that's one of the nice things about boundaries. I like to think of them like a rubber band. Everything that you need to hold is inside, but it can still stretch and move as you're holding that boundary. So it doesn't have to be rigid and firm. It can be flexible and molding. But I also explained that to my children, the reason why. And this can be helpful with boundaries, is to kind of explain the why. And I would just said, you know what? I know that sometimes you might miss mom for an hour while I'm gone, but it helps me to feel better. And when I feel better, then I'm going to be a nicer mom. I'm not going to be so quick to yell at you. I'm going to be a little bit calmer. I'm going to want to play with you more. And so I'm going to go ahead and do this. And I know that I still love you and I'll be back in an hour.
And they were like, okay, mom, go. You're not going to yell at us. Go for it. When we were talking just now, the word non-negotiable came through my mind. And then as you mentioned, like the rubber band, I went, ooh, I like that. Because, we so often we say, okay, what are your non-negotiables? And it sounds so rigid. So I get, your workouts. It's something that's important to you, but it's still negotiable because you can move the time.
Right.
Yeah. So I love the idea of that, that rubber band, rather than it being so rigid that it can move. And,
yes.
And that's kind of like our whole lives. Everything ebbs and flows. And I think it's important to go with the flow.
It is. And I think sometimes you can be a little bit creative in how you're creating a boundary. I have an exercise called the bubble of peace. And I actually learned this through my Hypnobabies natural birthing class. So it's not a Terina original, but I love it. So I share it with my clients, and I'm going to share it today. So what you do is you picture a bubble, and it can be made out of any material that you need it to be. So if it needs to be really strong, protective of you, it can be titanium. And you just imagine it getting as big as it needs to get. And then it can just shrink back right up tight against your body, and it protects you. And anything that it's protecting you from just bounces right off of it. So say you're going to go into a situation that typically your boundaries are going to be crossed. You're going to be around somebody that's going to say disparaging comments, that's going to have backhanded compliments, that's going to say things that are just meant to just poke at you. But maybe it's at a large family gathering and you don't want to choose to not be there just because this one person's there. Use your bubble of peace and I've even made a game out of it before. Like I've had a family member coming to visit who always does this. And so I've just thought, how many times is my bubble of peace going to protect me? And I just count, and not in a like I'm tallying up so I can keep track but in a playful way, like how many times is my bubble of peace going to protect me? So sometimes it can just be an energetic boundary for yourself. Like I'm refusing to let that stuff in, and my boundary is going to protect me.
I love that, because I actually have a family event that'll be coming up, and I'm sure that someone's going to say something, and I'd hate to go into a situation with a negative thought. And now with the bubble of peace, I don't have to. Like I don't have to go in thinking, oh, I got to protect myself from this person, this comment, this snide remark, whatever it might be. So for everyone, we've had a great conversation here, but don't forget the bubble of peace. We all need to just incorporate that into our daily lives. I love it. We are getting to the point where we're going to have to wrap up in a couple of minutes, but I wanted just to touch real quickly, since we talked about self-care, we've talked about boundaries, just on a very, quickly, not too quickly, but let's talk about how both of those things really helps us manage stress and manage it in a way that works for us.
So when you really incorporate those two things into your life, you can find so much more peace. When you are making self-care an integral, non-negotiable part of your life, then you're going to be filled up. You're going to do things that are filling you up. You're going to be doing things that bring you joy, and you're going to be showing love to yourself. And when we feel loved, we do better and we feel better. And as you have boundaries, you're going to be able to say no to things that don't serve you. How many times have you said yes to something out of obligation? How many times have you attended an event that you didn't want to be there? And if you can reduce or eliminate those, it frees up time to do more self-care, to be more present with the people that you love, to be working on projects, activities that bring you joy and light you up. And so you're going to just be more peaceful when you can learn how to fill yourself and reduce the things that are draining to you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for the tip on the bubble of peace, because I think that's everything that that's something that every one of us really needs to incorporate, so we can, be that authentic person who we are, live in that authentic way without other people kind of pulling us out of that into a negative role. So thank you, Terina. Before we go, would you please tell everyone how they can connect with you and work with you?
Yeah, so I'm on most social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I think I even got Pinterest and YouTube going lately, but and you can find my website, terinamaldonado.com. And if you go to my website, you can actually download. I have a free journaling and self-care workbook for a week of journaling prompts and self-care ideas. So if those are things that you want to try and incorporate, then go to my website and grab that, and that'll be helpful for you. And I love to work with people. I have a great one-on-one coaching program that really walks step by step through, this discovery of who you are, how to implement that self-love and self-care, and how to set boundaries and to really get comfortable with doing that and comfortable in who you are.
I love it. In essence, Terina helps others live authentic. You are on working towards, then Terina is the person to connect with. So again, Terina, thank you so much for being with us today. I hope this is the first of many great conversations we have. Thank you everyone for joining us today on today's episode of the Wonder Series, sponsored by livinghealthylist.com. We're here every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I hope you all have a great week. Until next time, I leave you with this: healthy living, happy life. Have a great day.